There are moments in life when the universe delivers justice so perfectly, so beautifully orchestrated, that you almost believe in fate. This was one of those moments. I stared at the computer screen, reading the name over and over again. Zariah Blackwood. The same girl who made my 7th grade year a living nightmare. The same person who convinced me I was worthless, invisible, destined for nothing. 20 years later, she was asking me for a job. But let me take you back to where it all began. Because to understand the sweet, devastating irony of this moment, you need to know what she did to me when we were just 12 years old. 7th grade at Riverside Preparatory was supposed to be my fresh start. I had just moved to Connecticut with my mother after my parents' messy divorce. I was quiet, bookish, and desperately wanted to disappear into the background while I figured out how to rebuild my shattered world. But Zariah Blackwood had other plans. She was everything I was not. Tall, confident, surrounded by a pack of loyal followers who hung on her every word. She had this way of commanding attention the moment she walked into a room, her perfectly straightened hair catching the light, her smile sharp as broken glass. I still remember the first time she noticed me. I was sitting alone in the cafeteria, reading a book while picking at my peanut butter sandwich. My mother had packed it in a brown paper bag, because we could not afford the meal plan. I was trying so hard to be invisible, to just make it through lunch without drawing attention to myself. Then her shadow fell across my table. "What are you reading, new girl?" Her voice was sickeningly sweet, but there was something dangerous underneath it. I looked up to find her standing there with 3 of her friends, all of them staring at me like I was some fascinating specimen under a microscope. Just a book," I stammered, closing it quickly and shoving it into my backpack. "Just a book." She laughed, and the sound was like nails on a chalkboard. "Does the book have a name? Or are you too stupid to remember?" Her friends giggled. My face burned with humiliation. "It is called The Giver," I whispered. "Oh, how adorable. The weird girl reads baby books." She turned to her audience. "Did you guys know we have a future librarian in our class?" More laughter. I wanted to sink through the floor and disappear forever. But that was just the beginning. Over the next few months, Zariah made it her personal mission to ensure I understood my place in the social hierarchy of Riverside Prep, which was, according to her, somewhere below the cafeteria mystery meat. She had a gift for psychological warfare that would have impressed military strategists. She never did anything overtly violent or obvious. Instead, she waged a campaign of subtle, devastating cruelty that left no physical evidence but destroyed me from the inside out. She would walk by my desk and accidentally knock my books to the floor, then apologize so sweetly that the teacher would actually thank her for being considerate. She started rumors that I had lice, which meant no one would sit next to me for weeks until the school nurse finally examined my scalp and declared me clean. She convinced everyone that I smelled weird, so kids would dramatically hold their noses when I walked by. She made sure I was always picked last for everything. Group projects, sports teams, even volunteer activities. She had such influence over our classmates that being associated with me became social suicide. But the worst part was not the isolation or the humiliation. It was what she said to me during those quiet moments when no one else was around to hear. "You know why nobody likes you?" she would whisper as we passed in the hallway. "Because you are nothing special. You will never be anything special. My mom says your family is poor," she told me one day while we were both getting drinks from the water fountain. "Is that why you smell like thrift store clothes?" "I heard you crying in the bathroom yesterday," she said another time, cornering me by my locker. "Do not worry. I will not tell anyone. It would just make them feel sorry for you, and trust me, you do not want people's pity. It is worse than being ignored." The cruelest part was that she was not entirely wrong. I did feel like nothing. I was poor. I did cry in bathroom stalls. And slowly, insidiously, I began to believe everything she said about me. The incident that broke something inside me happened on a Thursday in March. I had just gotten back a history test. The one bright spot in my academic life was that I was genuinely smart, even if no one seemed to care. I had scored a 98%, the highest grade in the class. For once, I felt proud of something. For a brief, shining moment, I thought maybe I could earn some respect from my classmates through academic achievement. I should have known better. During lunch, I was sitting at my usual table, alone of course, when Zariah appeared with her usual entourage. I heard you did well on the history test, she said, and for a split second, I thought maybe she was going to congratulate me. Instead, she reached into my open backpack and pulled out my folder. Let me see that test, she demanded. Please do not. I started, but she had already found it. Oh wow, 98%, she announced loudly, holding the paper up for everyone to see. Look everyone, our resident weirdo actually knows something. The cafeteria had gone quiet. Every eye was on me, and I wanted to die. But she was not finished. She reached for my apple juice box, the cheap generic brand my mother bought in bulk because it was all we could afford. And before I could stop her, she squeezed it hard. The juice exploded everywhere. All over my test. All over my homework. All over the books I had borrowed from the library, because we could not afford to buy them. All over the only things in my life that brought me any joy or pride. Oops, she said with that trademark smirk. So sorry. I guess being smart does not make you any less clumsy. I stared at the soggy mess that had been my perfect test score, my completed homework, my beloved library books. The apple juice was soaking through everything, ruining hours of work. But worse than the destroyed papers was what she said next. She leaned down close to my ear, so only I could hear, and whispered, "You will always be nobody. Nobody listens to quiet girls. And nobody ever will." Then she straightened up, smiled at her friends, and walked away like nothing had happened. I sat there for the rest of lunch period, staring at the sticky mess, while other students stepped carefully around my table, like I was contaminated. That night, I went home and cried until I had no tears left. Then I made myself a promise. Someday, somehow, I would make sure she was wrong. The remaining months of 7th grade crawled by like a wounded animal. But something had shifted inside me after the apple juice incident. Instead of breaking me completely, Zariah's cruelty had awakened something I did not know I possessed. Determination. I threw myself into my studies with an intensity that worried my mother. I read everything I could get my hands on. I taught myself skills that were not offered at our underfunded school. I started a blog where I wrote about books and current events, slowly building a small but devoted following. High school was better, mostly because Zariah went to private school while I remained in the public system. Without her constant presence, I began to find my voice. I joined the debate team, wrote for the school newspaper, and discovered I had a talent for leadership when people were not actively working to undermine me. College was where I truly bloomed. At State University, nobody knew about my awkward middle school years. I could reinvent myself completely. I majored in communications and business, worked 3 part-time jobs to pay my way, and graduated magna cum laude. My first job was at a small digital marketing firm in Boston. I worked 16-hour days, learned everything I could about the industry, and saved every penny I earned. Within 5 years, I had enough experience and capital to strike out on my own. I started Morton Media Collective in my 1-bedroom apartment with nothing but a laptop, a dream, and an unshakable belief that quiet girls could change the world if given the chance. The company grew slowly at first. I worked alone for the first year, taking on small clients and building a reputation for innovative digital campaigns. But my real breakthrough came when I developed a social media strategy that helped a struggling nonprofit increase their donations by 300% in 6 months. Word spread. Bigger clients came calling. I hired my first employee, then my second. Then suddenly I was managing a team of 10 people in a real office space. By year 5, Morton Media Collective was handling campaigns for Fortune 500 companies. By year 10, we had offices in 3 cities and a client roster that read like a who's who of American business. By year 15, I was being featured on magazine covers and invited to speak at industry conferences. Harvard Business School used one of my campaigns as a case study. Ted asked me to give a talk about innovation in digital marketing. And through it all, I never forgot 7th grade. I never forgot the girl who told me I would always be nobody. I carried that memory with me like a talisman, a reminder of how far I had come and why I could never stop pushing forward. Which brings us back to that Tuesday morning, 20 years after the apple juice incident, when destiny came knocking on my inbox. I was in my corner office on the 32nd floor of a downtown skyscraper, reviewing quarterly reports for Morton Media Collective. We had just landed our biggest client yet, a tech giant that wanted us to handle their entire rebrand, and I was feeling pretty good about life. Then I opened my email and saw her name, Zariah Blackwood. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my lips. My heart started pounding so hard I was sure my assistant could hear it through the glass walls of my office. The subject line read, Internship application, passionate recent graduate seeking opportunity. I clicked on the email with trembling fingers. Dear hiring manager, I hope this message finds you well. My name is Zariah Blackwood, and I am writing to express my strong interest in securing an internship position with Morton Media Collective. I recently completed my master's degree in marketing communications from Northwestern University, and I am eager to begin my career in digital media. Your company's innovative campaigns and industry leadership make it my dream workplace. I have attached my resume and portfolio for your review. While I do not have extensive professional experience yet, I am a quick learner with natural leadership abilities and unlimited enthusiasm for the field. I would be grateful for any opportunity to contribute to your team's continued success. I am available for unpaid internship opportunities and am willing to relocate if necessary. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Zariah Blackwood. I read the email 3 times before it fully sank in. Zariah Blackwood, the same person who had tormented me, who had told me I would never amount to anything, was begging me for a job, and she had no idea who I was. I opened her attached resume with hands that were definitely not steady. The document told a story of someone who had not had an easy path. She had taken 7 years to finish her undergraduate degree, working multiple jobs along the way. She had been unemployed for 8 months after graduation before starting her master's program. Her work experience was a patchwork of retail jobs, temp positions, and short-term contracts. It was clear that life had not been kind to Zariah Blackwood. But here she was, reaching out to the girl she had once destroyed, asking for a lifeline. The girl she had convinced would never amount to anything was now in a position to determine her future. The irony was so perfect it almost felt scripted. I closed my laptop and sat back in my chair, staring out at the city skyline. From my office, I could see for miles in every direction. I could see the harbor where million-dollar yachts bobbed at anchor. I could see the university where I had reinvented myself. I could see the neighborhood where I had grown up, poor and powerless. And somewhere out there was Zariah Blackwood, probably checking her email obsessively, hoping for a response that would change her life. Just like I had once hoped for someone, anyone, to show me kindness when I needed it most. The question was, what kind of person had I become? I could have deleted the email. I could have had my assistant send a polite rejection letter. I could have simply ignored it and let karma handle the rest. But where would be the lesson in that? No, if the universe was going to serve up this kind of poetic justice, I was going to savor every moment of it. I picked up my phone and called Jennifer Kim, our head of HR. Jen, I need you to extend an offer to someone for our internship program. Great. Which candidate? Her name is Zariah Blackwood. She just applied today. Oh, I have not had a chance to review her materials yet. Should I? No need. I have already reviewed everything. Offer her the position. Unpaid, 12-month duration, starting Monday. There was a pause. Jennifer was used to me being decisive, but this was unusually quick, even for me. Are you sure? We usually do a more extensive vetting process. I am sure. Trust me on this one. Okay. I will send the offer letter today. Thank you. And Jen, do not mention that I personally approved her application. Let her think it went through normal channels. After I hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about what I was about to do. Was it revenge? Justice? A teaching moment? Maybe it was all 3. But one thing was certain. Zariah Blackwood was about to learn what it felt like to be powerless, invisible, and forgotten. Just like she had taught me 20 years ago. The following Monday morning, I watched from my office as Zariah Blackwood walked into Morton Media Collective for her first day. She looked different from the confident girl I remembered from middle school. Older, obviously, but also more uncertain. She was wearing what was clearly her best professional outfit. A navy blazer that had seen better days and shoes that had been carefully polished to hide their age. She kept smoothing her hair and adjusting her bag, nervous energy radiating from every gesture. This was someone who needed this opportunity desperately. I felt a small, dark satisfaction at the thought. Jennifer met her at reception and gave her the standard new employee tour. I watched through my glass office walls as they walked through our open workspace, past the ping-pong table and gourmet coffee bar, past the conference rooms with their floor-to-ceiling windows and state-of-the-art technology. Zariah's eyes were wide as she took it all in. I could practically see her calculating the success that surrounded her, the kind of life she wanted for herself. What she did not know was that all of this, every single bit of it, had been built by the quiet girl she had once tormented. Jennifer brought her to the intern workspace, a small desk in the corner near the supply closet. It was deliberately positioned so that anyone walking to my office would have to pass right by it. I wanted her to see me coming and going. I wanted her to wonder who the woman in the corner office was. I wanted her to slowly realize that some people in this building had power, and some people did not. Just like middle school. For the first few days, I observed her from a distance. She was eager, almost desperately so. She volunteered for every menial task, stayed late without being asked, and made cheerful conversation with anyone who would listen. She was trying so hard to be noticed, to be valued, to prove her worth. It reminded me of someone I used to know. After Zariah had been there for a week, I decided it was time to interact with her directly. I walked over to her desk during the lunch hour, when most of the office had cleared out. She was sitting alone, eating a sandwich from a brown paper bag. Just like I used to do. "You must be our new intern," I said, extending my hand. "I am Claire Morton, the CEO. Her face lit up with excitement and nervousness. "Oh my gosh, yes. I am Zariah Blackwood. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I cannot tell you how much it means to me." She was gripping my hand like her life depended on it. Up close, I could see the dark circles under her eyes, the carefully applied makeup trying to hide her exhaustion. "How are you finding everything so far?" "Amazing. Everyone has been so welcoming. The work is fascinating. I feel like I am learning something new every day." I nodded approvingly. "That is exactly what we like to hear. You know, I always try to keep an eye on our interns. This industry can be challenging, and I believe in supporting young talent." Her eyes practically sparkled with hope. "That is so generous of you. I promise you would not regret investing in me. I have natural leadership abilities, and I am not afraid of hard work." Natural leadership abilities. The same phrase from her cover letter. I wondered if she realized how desperate it sounded. "I am sure you do," I said smoothly. "In fact, I have a special project I have been saving for the right person. Are you interested in taking on some additional responsibilities?" "Absolutely. Anything you need." "Wonderful. I need someone to coordinate our office lunch orders for the next few weeks. We have some important clients coming in, and I want to make sure everything is perfect. Think you can handle that?" Taking lunch orders. The most basic, thankless task in any office. But I presented it like it was a privilege. "Of course. I would be honored." "Great. I will have Jennifer send you the details." As I walked back to my office, I could feel her watching me with admiration and gratitude. She thought I was mentoring her, giving her special attention. She had no idea that I was just getting started. Over the following weeks, I gave Zariah a steady stream of tasks that were designed to keep her busy, hopeful, and completely unaware of how pointless they were. I had her research competitor analysis for campaigns that did not exist. I made her create detailed PowerPoint presentations that I reviewed once and never used. I sent her on elaborate errands across the city to pick up supplies we did not actually need. But here was the genius of it. I praised her constantly. "Zariah, this research is exactly what I was looking for. You have such attention to detail. The way you handled that client call was impressive. You really know how to manage people. I am so glad we found you. You are exactly the kind of talent this company needs." Every compliment was delivered publicly, where the rest of the staff could hear. It created the illusion that she was special, that she was being fast-tracked for success. Meanwhile, the actual important projects were being handled by other people. The real campaigns, the strategic planning, the client relationships. She was kept far away from all of it. But she did not know that. From her perspective, she was being mentored by the CEO herself, given increasing responsibilities and recognition for her hard work. It was a masterclass in manipulation, and I was applying everything I had learned in 20 years of business to make sure she never saw it coming. Just like I had never seen her psychological warfare coming in 7th grade. The other employees began to notice our special relationship. Some of them probably thought I was playing favorites. Others might have wondered why I was spending so much time on an unpaid intern. But nobody questioned it directly. I was the CEO. If I wanted to personally oversee some intern's development, that was my prerogative. Meanwhile, Soraya grew more and more confident that she had found her place in the world. She started dressing better, carrying herself with more authority. She began offering unsolicited opinions in meetings, clearly believing that her proximity to me gave her some kind of special status. She was making the same mistake she had made in middle school, confusing temporary power with permanent worth. Months passed. Soraya settled into a routine of meaningless tasks and empty praise. But something interesting was happening that I had not entirely expected. She was becoming dependent on my approval. Every morning, she would arrive early and stop by my office to check in. Every evening, she would linger near my door, hoping for feedback on her work. She hung on my every word, analyzed every interaction for signs of approval or disappointment. It reminded me of how I used to watch Soraya's face in middle school, desperately hoping for some sign that maybe, just maybe, she might show me mercy that day. The power dynamic was intoxicating. I understood now why bullies did what they did. Having someone's emotional well-being completely dependent on your whims was a heady feeling. But I also understood something else. Power corrupts everyone it touches, even the victims who eventually claim it. I was becoming someone I did not entirely recognize. Someone who enjoyed watching another person's hope and desperation. Someone who took satisfaction in controlling another person's sense of self-worth. Was this who I wanted to be? The question haunted me, but not enough to stop what I was doing. Because every time I started to feel guilty, I remembered the apple juice soaking through my test papers. I remembered the isolation, the tears, the absolute certainty that I was worthless. Soraya had planted those seeds of self-doubt, and they had taken 20 years to fully uproot. Why should her lesson take any less time? 6 months into Soraya's internship, I called her into my office for a formal performance review. She arrived with a folder full of documentation. Every project she had completed, every task she had handled, every small victory she had achieved during her time with us. She was so proud of her work, so hopeful about her future. It almost broke my heart. Soraya, please sit down. I wanted to take some time to discuss how things have been going. She perched on the edge of her chair, practically vibrating with nervous energy. I hope I have been meeting your expectations. I have really tried to go above and beyond in everything I do. You have certainly been dedicated, I said carefully. Your work ethic is impressive, and your enthusiasm has not gone unnoticed. Her face lit up. Thank you so much. That means the world to me, coming from you. However, I continued, and I watched her expression shift slightly. I do have some concerns about your long-term development. The hope in her eyes flickered. What kind of concerns? I leaned back in my chair, choosing my words carefully. Well, for one thing, I am not sure you have developed the kind of strategic thinking skills that are essential for advancement in this industry. Most of your work has been execution-focused rather than conceptual. This was, of course, completely my fault. I had deliberately given her only menial tasks. But she did not know that. I understand, she said quickly. I would love the opportunity to work on more strategic projects. I know I have the capability. That is exactly what I mean, I interrupted gently. Capability is not the same as experience. And unfortunately, experience is what our clients are paying for. I could see her trying to process this feedback, trying to figure out how to respond. So what would you recommend? How can I develop those skills? More time, I said simply. More exposure to different types of projects. more opportunity to prove yourself on increasingly complex assignments. How much more time? Hard to say. 6 months? A year? It really depends on how quickly you can demonstrate growth. I watched her face fall as the implications sank in. She had been here for 6 months already. The idea of spending another year as an unpaid intern was clearly devastating. But she nodded anyway. I understand. I appreciate the honest feedback. I will do whatever it takes. I am glad to hear that. Your attitude really sets you apart. After she left my office, I sat there for a long time, staring at my hands. What was I doing? What had I become? But then I remembered 7th grade me, sitting in that cafeteria, watching my dreams dissolve in apple juice while Zariah walked away laughing. Some lessons were worth teaching, no matter how long they took. As Zariah's internship stretched toward the 1-year mark, I began to notice changes in her that mirrored my own 7th grade experience. She stopped arriving early. She no longer lingered hopefully near my office. When she thought no one was looking, I could see the exhaustion and frustration in her posture. She was starting to realize that her year of dedication and hard work had not led to the opportunities she had been promised. She was beginning to understand that maybe she was not as special or valued as she had believed. The other employees had begun to distance themselves from her. Her constant name-dropping of our mentoring relationship had become annoying to people who were doing the real work of the company. Her suggestions in meetings were politely ignored. Her enthusiasm was met with eye rolls behind her back. She was becoming invisible, just like I had been. But unlike 7th grade me, she still had hope. She still believed that if she just worked a little harder, stayed a little later, smiled a little brighter, everything would work out. It was painful to watch, honestly, because I remembered that hope. I remembered how desperately I had clung to the belief that if I could just be perfect enough, maybe the bullying would stop. It never did. Not until I learned to stop seeking approval from people who would never give it. 372 days after Zariah Blackwood walked into my office building, she knocked on my door for the last time. She had been with us for exactly 1 year and 1 week. Her internship had officially ended the previous Friday, but I had agreed to one final meeting to discuss her future prospects. She looked different than she had a year ago. Older, more worn down. The bright optimism that had characterized her early months had been replaced by something harder, more desperate. "Claire," she began, and I noticed she was using my first name now instead of Ms. Morton. "I wanted to thank you for this incredible opportunity. This year has taught me so much about the industry and about myself." She was trying to sound upbeat, but I could hear the exhaustion underneath. "I am so glad to hear that," I replied. "Learning experiences are invaluable, even when they are challenging." "Absolutely. And I was hoping we could discuss the possibility of this leading to something more permanent. I know you mentioned that progression takes time, but I feel like I have really grown during my time here." She pulled out another folder, this one documenting her evolution as an employee. Charts showing her increasing responsibilities, testimonials from colleagues about her work ethic, proposals for projects she could lead if given the chance. She had put so much effort into this presentation. So much hope. "Zariah," I said gently, "I have to be honest with you about something." She straightened in her chair, preparing for feedback she thought she could overcome. "This company is moving in a different direction. We are looking for people with more experience, more proven track records. While your enthusiasm has been wonderful, enthusiasm alone is not enough in this industry." I watched her face change as the words sank in. "Are you saying there is no opportunity for me here?" "I am saying that this might not be the right fit for your particular skill set." But you said I had natural leadership abilities. You said I was exactly the kind of talent this company needed." "I said a lot of things," I replied calmly, "and I meant them in the context of an internship. But internships and permanent positions are very different things." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her mind working, trying to process what was happening. So this whole year, was it all just nothing? It was a learning experience. And learning experiences are never nothing. But we both knew that was not true. We both knew that this year had been carefully designed to lead nowhere. She gathered her papers with shaking hands, shoving them back into her folder with none of the careful organization she had displayed when she arrived. "I should go," she said quietly. "Zariah," I called as she reached the door. She turned back, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. A recognition, maybe. A sense that something was not quite right about this whole situation. "Do you remember 7th grade?" I asked softly. "What? 7th grade? Riverside Preparatory. Do you remember a girl named Claire Morton?" She went very still. "Do you remember pouring apple juice into someone's backpack because she got a better grade than you?" All the color drained from her face. "Oh my God," she whispered. You are that Claire?" I nodded. "But that was 20 years ago. We were just kids." "You told me I would always be nobody," I continued. "You said nobody listens to quiet girls. You made sure I ate lunch alone every day. You convinced everyone in our class that I was weird, smelly, worthless." She was backing toward the door now, her eyes wide with growing understanding. "Claire, that was so long ago. I was just a child. I did not understand." "You asked me if this whole year was nothing," I said, standing up from my desk. "It was not nothing. It was a lesson." A lesson? About what it feels like to be powerless. About what it is like to hope for something that will never come. About how it feels to realize that the person who controls your future sees you as completely dispensable. She was staring at me like I was a stranger, which I suppose I was. So this was revenge? "No," I said, walking around my desk to face her. "Revenge would have been immediate. This was education. This was showing you what you taught me when we were 12 years old. But I gave you a job. You gave me busy work. You gave me the illusion of opportunity, while keeping me away from anything that actually mattered. Sound familiar?" She was crying now, though I do not think she realized it. "I spent a year of my life here. A year I could have been building my actual career. I spent an entire childhood believing I was worthless because of you. Years I could have been building confidence and friendships if you had not convinced everyone I was not worth knowing." "We were children," she repeated desperately. "You cannot judge a child by adult standards." "You are right," I agreed. "Children do not always understand the consequences of their actions. But adults should. Adults should understand that their choices have lasting impact on other people's lives." I walked past her to open the office door. "You taught me that quiet girls grow up to be invisible women. But you were wrong. We just grow up to be the people who decide who gets heard and who gets ignored." She walked past me without another word, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. As the elevator doors closed behind her, I felt empty. Not satisfied. Not vindicated. Just empty. In the days that followed Zariah's departure, I found myself replaying our final conversation over and over. The look in her eyes when she realized who I was. The way her voice broke when she understood what had happened. The defeated set of her shoulders as she walked away from a year of wasted hope. I had expected to feel triumphant. For 20 years, I had fantasized about the moment when Zariah Blackwood would understand what she had put me through. I had imagined it would bring me peace, closure, some sense that justice had finally been served. Instead, I felt hollow. I threw myself back into work, trying to recapture the sense of purpose and accomplishment that had driven me for so long. But something had shifted. Every success felt a little less meaningful. Every achievement rang a little more hollow. My assistant, Marcus, noticed the change first. "You have been different since the intern left," he said one afternoon, bringing me my third coffee of the day. "More distracted." "Just thinking about some strategic decisions," I replied, not looking up from my computer screen. "Must be some pretty heavy strategy sessions. You have been staring at that same email for 20 minutes. He was right. I had been reading and rereading a client proposal without actually processing any of the words. "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think good people can do bad things and still be good people?" He raised an eyebrow. "That is pretty philosophical for a Tuesday afternoon. What brought this on?" "Just something I have been thinking about." He considered the question seriously, which was one of the things I valued about him. "I think good people can make bad choices," he said finally. "But I also think truly good people find ways to make amends when they realize they have hurt someone. Make amends. The phrase stuck with me for the rest of the day. That evening, I found myself driving through my old neighborhood. I had not been back there in years, but something was pulling me toward those familiar streets. Riverside Preparatory was exactly as I remembered it. The same brick buildings, the same perfectly manicured lawn, the same imposing entrance that had once filled me with dread every morning. I parked across the street and sat in my car, watching the building in the fading daylight. This was where it all began. This was where a 12-year-old girl learned to see herself as worthless. This was where another 12-year-old girl learned that cruelty was a form of power. But it was also where I learned to fight back, even if it took me 20 years to figure out how. As I sat there, I realized something that shocked me. I was grateful to Zariah. Not for the pain she had caused me, not for the years of self-doubt and isolation, but for teaching me that I had strength I did not know I possessed. Every cruel word she had spoken to me had eventually been proven wrong. I was not nobody. People did listen to quiet girls, once those girls found their voices. I had not remained invisible forever, but in proving her wrong, I had become someone I did not recognize. Someone who could systematically destroy another person's hope and call it justice. Someone who had become exactly what she had been, a bully. Finding Zariah was not difficult. In the age of social media and professional networking sites, tracking down someone's current situation takes about 5 minutes if you know what you are looking for. What I found broke my heart. Her LinkedIn profile showed a series of short-term positions since leaving my company. Retail jobs. Temp work. Nothing in her field, nothing that used her education or skills. Her last post was from 3 months ago. A generic motivational quote about perseverance that felt desperate rather than inspiring. I dug deeper, using resources that came with being a successful CEO. What I discovered painted a picture of someone whose life had been derailed by our encounter. She had moved back in with her parents. She had been seeing a therapist for anxiety and depression. She had applied for dozens of positions in digital marketing and communications, but something was blocking her progress. I suspected that something was me. Not directly. I had not sabotaged her job applications or given bad references. But I had done something worse. I had convinced her that maybe she really was not good enough for this industry. Just like she had once convinced me that I was not good enough for anything. The cycle of damage was continuing, and I was the one perpetuating it now. It took me 3 days to work up the courage to call her. Her phone rang 5 times before she answered. And when she did, her voice was cautious, uncertain. Hello. Zariah? This is Claire Morton. Silence. I know you probably do not want to hear from me, I continued quickly, but I was hoping we could talk. I do not think that is a good idea. Please. Just give me 10 minutes. There are things I need to say. Another long pause. What could you possibly have to say to me? That I was wrong. That I am sorry. That what I did to you is inexcusable, regardless of what happened between us as children. I heard her take a shaky breath. Where? She asked finally. We met at a small cafe in neutral territory. Neither of our neighborhoods, somewhere we could both feel safe. She looked smaller than I remembered, diminished somehow. She was wearing jeans and a sweater that had seen better days, and she kept her eyes fixed on her coffee cup instead of looking at me directly. Thank you for coming, I said. She shrugged. I almost did not, but I figured I owed it to myself to hear what you had to say. Zariah, I want you to know that what I did to you was wrong. Completely, inexcusably wrong. She looked up at me then, and I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. Do you know what the worst part was? She said quietly. It was not realizing that the whole year had been fake. It was not even the humiliation of understanding that you had been playing with me. What was it? It was that for a year, I thought I had found a mentor. Someone who believed in me, who saw potential in me that other people had missed. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like maybe I belonged somewhere. Her voice was barely above a whisper. And then I realized that even that was just another form of cruelty. You gave me hope specifically so you could take it away. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Zariah. Do you know what I have been doing for the past 4 months? Working at a department store. Folding clothes and smiling at customers who treat me like I am invisible. Because somehow, Word got around the industry that I spent a year at Morton Media Collective and had nothing to show for it. I never said anything negative about your work. You did not have to. The fact that you did not hire me after a full year spoke volumes. Other companies assumed there must have been a reason. She was right. I had destroyed her reputation without even trying. I have been going to therapy, she continued, trying to figure out why I keep ending up in situations where people have power over me and choose to use it to hurt me. What did you learn? That I probably deserved what happened in middle school. That I was cruel to you for no good reason, and that cruelty has consequences. No, I said firmly. You were 12 years old. You were a child who made mistakes. What I did to you was calculated and deliberate. There is no comparison. Is not there? She looked at me directly for the first time. I destroyed your sense of self-worth when we were kids. You destroyed my career as an adult. Which one of us caused more damage? I did not have an answer for that. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. What do you want from me? I want to make it right. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. How? How do you make up for a year of someone's life? How do you undo damage to someone's professional reputation? How do you give someone back their self-confidence? I do not know, I admitted. But I want to try. I have been thinking about this for weeks, I said. And I have a proposal. She raised an eyebrow skeptically. I want to offer you a real position at Morton Media Collective. Not an internship, not busy work. A genuine role with genuine responsibilities and a genuine salary. Why would I want to work for you again? Because you are good at what you do. Because you deserve a chance to prove yourself. Because I want to give you the opportunity that I should have given you a year ago. And what makes you think I would trust you now? Nothing, I said honestly. I have given you no reason to trust me. But maybe you could think of it as taking back control. Instead of letting me continue to have power over your career, you could come back and show everyone, including yourself, what you are actually capable of. She was quiet for a long time, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. What kind of position? Account manager. Real clients, real campaigns, real impact. Starting salary of $75,000, plus benefits. Her eyes widened slightly. It was probably more than she had ever made in her life. Why, she asked. Why would you do this now? Because I have spent 20 years letting what you did to me in 7th grade define who I became. I let it turn me into someone who could justify cruelty as long as I called it justice. I do not want to be that person anymore. And you think hiring me will fix that? I think giving you the chance you deserved a year ago is a start. She stared at me for a long moment. If I say yes, this is not forgiveness. This is not me saying that what you did was okay. I understand. And if I decide at any point that this is another game, another manipulation, I walk away and you never contact me again. Agreed. And you will give me a real opportunity to succeed, not set me up to fail? I will give you every resource and support I can. She was quiet again, thinking. I need to know something, she said finally. What you did to me, was it worth it? Did destroying me for a year make you feel better about what happened when we were kids? I thought about her question seriously. She deserved an honest answer. For about 5 minutes, yes. When you realized who I was and understood what had happened, I felt vindicated. I felt like the universe had finally balanced the scales. And then I realized that revenge does not heal anything. It just creates more damage. It just passes the pain from one person to another. So what changed your mind? I remembered something my mother told me when I was young. She said that hurt people. But she also said that healed people heal people. I spent 20 years as a hurt person. Maybe it is time to try being a healed person. Soraya nodded slowly. I will think about it, she said. I will let you know by the end of the week. She called me on Friday afternoon. I will take the job, she said without preamble. I am glad. But I have conditions. Name them. First, I report to someone else. Not you directly. I want to be evaluated on my work, not on our history. Done. Jennifer Kim will be your direct supervisor. Second, I wanted in writing that my employment is based on performance, not on our personal relationship. If I do not meet expectations, I get fired. If I exceed them, I get promoted. No special treatment either way. Absolutely. Third, I want us to agree that what happened between us, both in middle school and during my internship, stays between us. I do not want my colleagues to know about our history. I think that is wise. And finally, she paused. I want us to start over. Not as the people we were 20 years ago, or even as the people we were 6 months ago, just as two professionals trying to do good work. I would like that very much. Then I will see you Monday morning. After she hung up, I sat in my office feeling something I had not experienced in months. Hope. Not hope for revenge or vindication, or even forgiveness. Hope that maybe, just maybe, we could both become better people than we had been. Monday morning arrived with unusual nervousness on my part. I had hired hundreds of employees over the years, but none of those decisions had carried the emotional weight of this one. Zariah arrived precisely at 9 o'clock, dressed professionally in a way that managed to be both confident and appropriate. She had clearly invested in some new work clothes. Another expense I felt guilty about, knowing how tight her finances had been. Jennifer introduced her to the team as our new account manager, with no mention of her previous internship. As far as everyone else knew, she was just another new hire with impressive credentials and a lot of potential. I watched from my office as she settled into her new workspace. A real desk in the main office area, with a proper computer and phone line, and everything an actual employee needed to do their job. For the first few weeks, I made a conscious effort to treat her exactly as I would any other employee. I said good morning when I passed her desk. I asked Jennifer for updates on how she was settling in. I included her in company-wide meetings and emails. But I did not single her out for special attention or criticism. I let her work speak for itself. And it turned out her work was excellent. Within a month, it became clear that Zariah was everything she had claimed to be during her internship, and everything I had never given her the chance to prove. She had a natural intuition for client relationships, an ability to understand what people needed, and find creative ways to deliver it. Her campaigns were innovative without being risky, strategic without being overly complicated. She worked well with her colleagues, contributed meaningfully to team meetings, and showed the kind of leadership potential that actually mattered in the business world. Not the empty buzzwords she had relied on during her internship, but real problem-solving skills and genuine collaborative ability. Jennifer raved about her in their weekly check-ins. She is one of the best hires we have made in years, she told me during one of our management meetings. Whatever you saw in her application, you were absolutely right. I smiled and nodded, not mentioning that what I had seen in her application had nothing to do with her professional qualifications. More importantly, I could see that Zariah was thriving. She carried herself differently now, with the confidence that comes from knowing your work is valued and your contributions matter. She was becoming the person she had always had the potential to be, if only someone had given her the chance. 3 months into her employment, Zariah knocked on my office door during lunch hour. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. "Of course. Come in." She sat down in the same chair where, nearly 2 years earlier, she had pleaded for a permanent position while I systematically crushed her hopes. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "For what?" "For the opportunity. For taking a chance on someone whose last experience with this company was complicated. You have earned everything you have achieved here. Your work has been exceptional." "I know," she said, and there was a quiet confidence in her voice that had not been there before. "And I think that is the point." "What do you mean?" "During my internship, I was so desperate to prove myself that I lost sight of what actually mattered. I was so focused on impressing you and trying to fast-track my way to success that I never just concentrated on doing good work." She paused, looking out the window at the city skyline. This time, I knew I had to prove myself through results, not politics. I had to actually be good at my job, not just talk about being good at it. And how does that feel? Like I finally understand what professional confidence actually means. It is not about convincing other people that you are valuable. It is about knowing that your work creates value. I nodded, impressed by her insight. There is something else, she said. I have been thinking a lot about what you said when we met at the coffee shop. About hurt people hurting people, and healed people healing people. And I think maybe we both needed to learn that lesson. You had to learn that revenge does not heal old wounds. And I had to learn that I could not build a career on charm and networking alone. What do you think we learned? That the best way to move past old pain is to become the kind of people we needed when we were younger. You gave me the real mentorship I was looking for during my internship. And I think maybe I gave you a chance to see that you could use your power to build people up instead of tearing them down. She was right. In the months since hiring her, I had found myself looking at all my employees differently. I had started really investing in their development, creating more opportunities for growth, being more generous with recognition and advancement. Helping Zariah succeed had reminded me why I had started this company in the first place. Not to accumulate power or prove a point, but to create something meaningful and help other people do their best work. I have one more thing to say, Zariah continued. Go ahead. I forgive you for what happened during my internship. I understand why you did it, and I do not agree with it, but I forgive you. I felt tears prick at my eyes. And I forgive the 12-year-old girl who poured apple juice on my homework. She was dealing with her own pain in the only way she knew how. Zariah smiled. The first genuine, unguarded smile I had seen from her since middle school. Thank you, she said. That means more to me than you probably realize. It has been 2 years since that conversation. As I write this, Zariah has been promoted twice and now leads her own team of account managers. She has become one of our most valuable employees, and someone I genuinely respect as a colleague. We are not friends. Too much history stands between us for that. But we are something better. We are two people who learned from our mistakes and chose to grow into better versions of ourselves. The company has grown as well. We now employ over 100 people across 4 offices. Last month, we launched a mentorship program for young professionals from underrepresented backgrounds, something I probably would not have thought to do if I had not learned firsthand how important real opportunity can be. Sometimes I think about that 7th grade girl who sat alone in the cafeteria, watching her dreams dissolve in apple juice. I wish I could tell her that someday she would have the power to change other people's lives for the better. But I think maybe she figured that out on her own. The quiet girl did grow up to be someone people listened to. She just had to learn that the most important voice to trust was her own. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, you get a chance to rewrite the ending to your story. Not by changing what happened, but by choosing what happens next. I chose healing over hurt. I chose building up over tearing down. I chose to remember that the real measure of power is not what you can take away from others, but what you can help them become. 20 years after Zariah Blackwood told me I would always be nobody, she works for a company I built from nothing. But more importantly, we both became somebody worth being proud of. In the end, that was the only victory that actually mattered. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories of resilience, redemption, and the power of second chances. Your support helps us continue sharing these powerful narratives that remind us all that it is never too late to choose kindness over cruelty, healing over hurt, and hope over despair.